This morning for What's on My Mind, we're featuring Chartered Accountant Dennis Chung. What's on his mind? Sustainable economic growth.
Many persons would have heard me always say that Jamaica does not have the capacity to sustainably grow at rates of 2 to 3% over any extended period. In fact, I have always maintained that once we recovered from the COVID setback, that we would go back to growing between 1 to 2% if we were lucky. I've been asked many times to explain what is meant by that. A simple explanation is that no matter how much rain is falling, you can only catch water to the capacity of the tank you have. Recently, I concluded a 5-day bicycle ride around the island, starting in Kingston and going on the coast along the main roads through all 14 parishes. The ride has grown, and we just had over 40 tourists coming to do the ride and about 50 participants every day. Cycling events have a lot of potential as a tourism product. Having gone to a few overseas myself, where in one case over 7,000 persons came from overseas to participate, with each person spending around US $2,000 each, then it means that over 3 days they would have spent around US $14 million or Jamaican $2.2 billion. Jamaica has the beauty and tourist appeal to actually attract many more than that. And in fact, the recent participants say that the ride we did was the best cycling vacation they have ever done, having ridden all around the world. Persons were fascinated with the natural beauty of Jamaica. They love the food and the warmth and hospitality of the people and the local hotels we stayed at. But sadly, Jamaica does not have the capacity to realize its full potential, as over the decades our governments have failed to invest in our infrastructure, which many didn't understand what some of us as commentators were saying in the early 2000s about the harm being done when capex or capital expenditure was reduced or eliminated in order to meet fiscal targets, instead placing more emphasis on how much money could be given away through path and other means. In other words, giving a fish rather than teaching the people how to fish. So some examples are the fact that our main roads have been ignored for so long and are in a bad state, improving in many respects, but bad after many years of neglect. So while we can see roadwork happening in St. Thomas and Portland, which have been long neglected, and also in Hopewell, Hanover, there is obviously no care or attention being given to the main roads between Negril and Mandeville, and then through Porus in Manchester, which for me says that the responsible MPs have not been aggressive enough in their representation, as even an initiative like fixing the potholes for their constituents until the main fixing can be done to drive on would have been welcomed and showed effort. The other thing that struck me is that Jamaica relies so much on tourism, and still we don't do what is necessary to maximize our earning potential. So the disorganization I see in the towns of Ocho Rios and Montego Bay limits our ability to maximize the value from them, and how filthy they are reminds us of the neglect. And on the Negril 7-mile strip, for example, we don't have adequate lighting for tourists to come on the strip at nights and support local businesses. It's as if we shut down our earning potential at 6 p.m. and tell the tourists to go to bed. But even after they go to bed, alas, there is no water for them, because the West, the tourism mecca, is suffering from a lack of water, which is something that should never happen. In fact, they have been making plans to address this for the past 20 years. And in 20 years, we cannot have adequate water supply, even though the island is surrounded by water. Then the last thing I will mention is that we have a limited amount of hotel rooms on the south coast, and especially in and around Mandeville. Combine that with the road condition through porous, for example, and then we can legitimately ask ourselves, are we interested in real development in these areas? So based on our capacity, even if the world is raining high levels of growth, then the teacup that we set to catch some of that growth will always limit our capacity to grow. If we want growth and for the people to prosper, then we must invest in infrastructure and public transportation and expand our capital expenditure program, which has until recently been neglected for far too long. Because right now, if we were faced with even 2,000 persons wanting to do the bike event, it would not be possible given our lack of infrastructure, which is a lost opportunity. This is the reason why Jamaicans who are thought to be lazy go abroad and do very well. A government's role is primarily to allow every person to realize their full potential by providing an enabling environment, which means investing in the country's infrastructure to start with. The recent roadworks are a welcome move in that direction, and we must do more to uplift the investment in our capital infrastructure if we want our people to prosper.